Pizza Tower is a fun little game, and while collecting the P-rings for the levels seemed fun, I really wanted to make my life an absolute hell, so that's why I decided to find out if you can beat Pizza Tower without moving. Without pressing left or right. Now with these effects in place, let's move on to John. Forgot about the tutorial. Now we can still do quite a few things with our limited moveset. We can still jump, grab, wall run, and wall jump. With all these abilities, the tutorial is a piece of... You have to press the left and right button 4 times in the tutorial, and after this, it's smooth sailing. So let's move on to John Gutter. John Gutter is the first level today, and as an interesting tidbit, it has no gimmicks, which I guess is a gimmick in and of itself. Now this level is pretty easy, all things considered, but it's good to point out a few things here that will be important for the later levels. In Pizza Tower, there are secret areas, sections where you use clever platforming to get extra points. But in a challenge like this, it's a trap. Most of these areas have pits, and if you're facing these pits when you enter, you are doomed to repeatedly fall into them for the rest of the time. But as long as you can avoid these secret areas, it's a cakewalk. Now Blood Sauce Dungeon, just like its predecessor, is pretty gimmicky free, as it still introduces you to the world. This time, it's obstacles, one of which includes the introduction of lava. Now while a relatively harmless obstacle in the base game, in this challenge it becomes an instant death trap. Lava works by sending Peppino straight up, which can then be corrected by pressing left or right, which, for obvious reasons, we can't do. Which means we have to restart, but as long as you're paying attention, this should really be fun. With the $100 we got, let's head down to Mr. Stick and fight Pepperman. Now the bosses of this game have an interesting gimmick, which is the health feature. You get hit too many times, you have to restart, which means you have to be precise and quick. Now is not the time for patience. It's also important to keep in mind that Pepperman's stun timer is very low, so you'll not only have to dodge his attacks, but dodge in such a way that you can easily hit him before his stun timer ends. Now with a whole new floor to look through, let's head to... well, maybe... okay, so let's... Ancient Cheeze is our next stop, and while easy, it does take 4 left or right presses, the cause of which are the Goblin Bombs. Now the problem with these bombs is that they are impossible to move without pressing left or right, the only exception being the ability to throw them. Now don't get me wrong, the ability to throw them is more than useful, but it's not all encompassing. Now not only is this the first level where we're required to press left or right, it's the first time we can use strategy to skip left or right presses. At this Goblin section, for example, normally it would take 3 left or right presses, but it only takes us 1 if we use the bomb provided by this Goblin instead of the bomb that spawns up here. But not all of these left or right presses are going to be able to be removed so easily. Just right after this, for example, is a hole where you have to press left or right 2 times to be able to kill this stupid rat. Now, as long as you're making this right, it's going to be pretty easy, but unfortunately, of course, there are left and right presses that are required. Now Pizzascape is the first real transformation we're going to see, and this, just like many others, fucking suck. This ability prevents you from moving left and right, so we need to skip it as much as possible. Which once again, is almost impossible because of these stupid rat bastards. The first appearance requires it to kill the rat, and the second time we have to use it not once but twice to be able to get this top in. So already we're at 3 left or right presses. We have to do it 2 more times in the yellow room, once right before Pillar John and once right after. While it does suck, the level is pretty easy, all things considered. Now the levels up to this point have been very simple, so let's change that by heading to Fun Farm. Now when I say this, I'm referring to the tech involved in the level that will allow us to remove left and right presses. The first example being when we first meet Mort. Now while Mort won't allow us to run, it still allows us to move forward with his attack, but it only does this in the direction he's facing, so we'll have to be very finicky with which direction we grab him on. For example, right off the bat when we first get Mort, we have to grab him from the left side or else we're going to be facing wall for eternity. But if you're able to grab him from the left side, you're able to get through this entire section without pressing left or right once. Right after this section, you're also able to skip a right press as long as you're damaging yourself before grabbing the top in. Because if you go up there with Mort, you're going to be stuck there and that's going to force a restart. Next we go to the Mort climb. As long as you position yourself right, it's not going to take any left or right presses, but the priest is going to take you 3. While it may seem like only take you 2, there's a secret area behind the priest requiring us to use an extra press to get out of the room. For obvious reasons, we don't want to enter the secret area. Now we have this area with an eggplant, and while it may look like we're forced to use a right press to change directions of Mort, we can actually use the knockback of the eggplant to make it so we can grab Mort from the right side. This allows us to remove a left or right press right off the beginning. However, it still requires a few left or right presses to continue from here. And finally, we only need 1 right press to give us enough momentum to carry us over this gap. Now the Vigilante is a unique boss, and the fact that you have a gun. Now while this is a perfectly fine gimmick, we also have to take a look in the fact that your gun replaces your grab. Effectively, this gun makes it so we can't grab onto the wall, meaning if we want to run on a wall and bounce back and forth, we're going to have momentum leading up to it. This also means if you're facing the wall with the gun, that's going to cause a hit just out of principle, because you have to get hit to cause the knockback to let you hit the Vigilante again. But all things considered, this is actually, in my opinion, easier than Pepperman. Crust Cove was actually pretty easy. Now this was the only level in the game with an ability that allows you to run. In fact, the entire level is surrounded by this ability. So when you're really thinking about it, this is actually about as easy as the normal level. As long as you're playing the game, you can do this with 0 left and right presses. Golf is a pretty easy level normally, and this challenge doesn't really change that. The only thing this challenge really affects is the fact you can't shoot diagonally. As long as you're being precise, this level isn't even an issue. Deep Dish 9 is the next level we're heading to today, and this level predominantly features the rockets. Now these rockets allow you to travel through the screen very quickly, allowing you to break these cheese boulders. Now an additional ability these things have is the ability to turn around by holding left and right while on the ground. Now you actually need to use this ability twice, adding 2 left or right presses. In addition to this, there's this olive bubble in the screen that doesn't allow you to press left and right. For the most part, it's not even necessary for most of the level. However, there's this one section which you do need to hold right on to get to this door, thus letting us end the level with 3 left or right presses. Hello, this is Future Banks. I totally forgot to mention, there's this one lava section which really is going to soft block you if you're not paying attention. This video is supposed to go out tomorrow. I forgot to add this in the original recording. Sorry. Next up we got Gnome Forest. This level is a bitch. This is mostly because we're playing as 2 bitch characters, Gustavo and Brick. Now Gustavo and Brick have a pretty similar moveset to Peppino, however it is different in many key ways. For example, while Peppino runs, Gustavo rolls. While Peppino wall runs, Gustavo wall bounces. Now these things are really important because Gustavo cannot do either of them without pressing left and right. Gustavo cannot go into a run without pressing left or right to begin with, and he cannot wall bounce unless he is holding up against the wall. Now, in addition to that, there's a few things that also happen because of this. For example, if he cannot run, he can't go into 1 block wide holes. This is because unless you're holding left and right, you have to gain momentum to go into a roll, so this does mean you have to press left and right to get into all these spaces. He can't wall jump because he has to hold right to go up the wall, and he can't break through metal barriers unless extraneous circumstances allow him to do so. Overall, this means he has around 5 left and right presses in total. The first 3 include the 1 block wide hole, the second one being the metal barrier, and the third one being a wall jump. Now, in total, all these take 5 jumps, and honestly, if it were just for this level wouldn't be that bad, just a bit finicky. That is until you meet the third character that makes this a bitch. This man single-handedly made this game significantly harder. He effectively created the worst possible combination of traits for this level to make it one of the worst things you would ever have to do in this game if you're not pressing left and right. He adds a time limit to get top-ins. Now, to get top-ins of the level, you have to deliver background NPC to the pizza houses. Doing this rewards you with 1 top-in. Now, the first 3 are pretty easy. As long as you're maintaining pace, you can get them. The 4th one requires you to reach a long stretch of area without fucking up enough times to the point where you can actually get the top-in. And the last one requires you retract through most of the level to get the final top-in. This level alone took me around 30 retries to be able to finally get it. And in the end, this is going to be the first roadblock you'll be facing if you want to attempt this challenge. And if you can't complete this, there's no way you're going to be able to finish the rest of this challenge. Here is the noise. Let's move on. Now that the noise is gone, let's head to Freezerator. Now this level is pretty easy and it has an interesting gimmick, that being the pepper pizza. Now this pizza gives you the ability to double jump, and during this double jump you're able to break the special frozen blocks. Now while you're in this transformation, you're not able to move left and right, except for the fact you're able to keep your momentum. So as long as you're keeping your momentum going, you're able to break these ice blocks pretty easy. So overall, it doesn't take any left or right presses to beat this level, and you're pretty much able to get it done first try as long as you're being careful. Oh shit, this level sucks. Now in this level we have 2 transformations, Cheesy Pepino and Trash Can Lid. Both of these levels prevent you from moving left or right unless you press the buttons. Technically that's not the case because Trash Can Lid allows you to move left and right as it propels you forward, except this only happens when you land on the floor. Most of the time when you get this ability, it shoots you straight up and back into the trash can unless you move. And you can't get out of this ability like most of them by grabbing, so that means you have to immediately restart the level if you get hit by them. On the other side of the coin, we got Cheesy Pepino. Now for the most part, he's required for every single point he appears in. And actually, that's more of a blessing than a curse because of the fact that we don't have to avoid these stupid balls anytime they're shot. So really, as long as you're moving right, you're gonna able to get the minimum amount of left and right presses with Cheesy Pepino. Trash Can Lid, on the other hand, you're gonna have to jump over them anytime you see them. In fact, you don't have to press left and right any single time with these trash cans, which means you really have to avoid these at all costs. If you do all of that, it's only going to take you 7 left and right presses to defeat Now Pig City is a favorite of mine for this challenge, as it has a lot of tech involving it that allows you to skip left and right presses if you're doing really interesting moves. For example, right off the bat we got this area with a pig hop. Now these pig hops make it so you have to hold a direction before immediately turning around, which requires left and right press by the way, which will allow you to kill the cop. Now this cop specifically actually doesn't allow you to move left and right because you're immediately facing this wall. The only way I found around this is by knocking this enemy over to the cop and then attaching yourself to the cop and then allowing the enemy to hit you, which will allow you to gain enough momentum to get through this break. Luckily, that's one of the easier ones for this level. Now right off the bat of this one, we also got an area with a metal brick that you're able to jump over if you use precise movement. If you get it wrong, you're going to hit this cop, requiring a reset, as this will add a left or right press to your movement. So this is a Gustavo and Brick level. Now obviously I made it clear in the Gnome Forest level, I do not like Gustavo and Brick, as their controls are hard as fuck. And especially for this level where there's so much precise movement you have to do to skip out on left and right presses, it makes this level a real bitch with them. Right off the bat, we got some of the most complex tech I used in this entire game. Now, in reality, this took me like 30 minutes to pull off, and that's even after I came up with the idea. So basically, in this room, you have Gustavo, a wall, and a balloon. You need this balloon to get up, and you can get this balloon by using brick to eat it. Now, unfortunately, if you're jumping with brick, you can't move left and right. But you can move left and right if you're just Gustavo using his attack. But you can't eat the balloon with Gustavo, so where does that leave us? Well, here's an interesting story. You can use Gustavo to kick Brick into the wall, and then if you immediately attack after that, Brick will come back to you while mid-air, allowing you to double jump into the balloon. Now, it's still going to take you right press to get over the hole, but it's going to take you one less left press to actually get to the balloon. Right after this, we got the taser wall, as I like to call it. Now, the taser wall is already pretty easy, but we can knock out a right press by just holding left on the wall, as this will allow us to just climb up it without having to go back and forth over and over again, as long as we're using our invincibility frames properly. Immediately after this, we face Gustavo's second biggest weakness, a pretty large wall. We're going to have to use another left or right press to get over this one. You can either just climb it or you can use this convenient balloon, it's up to you. Now this part of my notes, I labeled it bullshit persist movement part. I don't know why I put persist there, but it is a bullshit movement part. Now this section just requires you to get very precise movement. It should be obvious what you have to do here. You simply just have to jump up here and break this guy out, and that's going to allow you up. It's still going to take a right press, but you can do it in only one instead of the two you may think when you first enter this room. Now after this, we got the balloon section. Now the balloon section takes two left or right presses to get up to the taxi. Overall, it's actually pretty easy. Finally, during pizza time, we have Gustavo's weakness again, a pretty large wall. It's going to take us one more left or right press, leaving us with this level with only 7 left or right presses. Now Pepabot is one of the most straightforward levels in the later levels. Now it's still going to take you 13 left or right presses, and that's mostly because of Pizza Box Peppino. Now obviously Peppino Box can't move left or right unless you're using his attack ability, but you're not able to turn around without using left or right. Overall, it's going to take you 13 times total to actually get through this level. Luckily, there's a few saves here and there where if you're using his attack ability, you can actually get up on spaces directly above you if you just time it correctly. However, other than that, this level takes 13 left or right presses, and you'll be able to get it done pretty quickly. Now we got the second to last boss, Fake Peppino. Now this boss is actually the most fun one out of all of them in my opinion. Now this boss is really interesting in the fact that it's really focusing on your parries. As long as you're parrying right and jumping over its attacks, it's pretty easy. And I really thought the escape sequence was going to be a real bitch, but quite honestly, it was about as easy as the main game. I got it down first try, and you should probably too. Pizzascape is going to be the final break you face in the remainder of your journey. Now this level has not only 0 left and right presses, but it's actually super easy for this challenge. The only gimmick here is some ghosts that can possess things, and it really doesn't impact the way we play the game. All you really have to do is just play how you would. A General William Sherman was once quoted in saying war is hell. Now many may believe he is actually quoting the fact that millions of lives are lost through atrocities committed by countries that have no matters with the actual civilians itself. I personally believe that's not the case, and he somehow came back in time after playing this stupid challenge and playing war. This level is fucking hell. Throughout this level, you have a shotgun, which might seem kind of fun, interesting gimmick, except if you remember back in the Vigilante boss fight, with your gun, you're not able to grab the walls and turn around. You have to always get a running start. Imagine amplifying that across an entire level. That is war. Now, if it was just that, it would be an annoying level. It would be a level you'd have to restart pretty constantly. Except for the fact you also have a timer. You have not only a timer, a very strict timer that you have to constantly add time to. This is the only level I've actually failed without doing this challenge. After only 2 hours of my life spent on this level, I managed to finally defeat it. Now, if you can do this too, you can pretty much get through the rest of the game, but trust me when I'm saying this, War is fucking hell, and you're going to be spending a long time trying to beat this level. Now, Don't Make a Sound requires 0 left and right presses right off the bat. And while there is the challenge of the animatronics, the real thing here that fucks you over a lot is gonna be the cheese. And I'm not fucking joking when I'm telling you this cheese is gonna screw you over. When you think of the shotgun and how bad that is, this is an entire pit of instant restarts. If you're facing a wall when you touch this cheese, you can't get out of it because you can't jump. You can't run up walls if you're not able to jump. So you have to avoid these piles of cheese at all costs. Now, as long as you're able to avoid these, you're probably fine. But just remember, don't touch the cheese. It seems I made a mistake here. We don't have any more levels. So let's go back to the second world and go to... Now this level, I kind of skipped in the beginning because most of the top-ends in here require you to get a lot of left and right presses. However, since we're near endgame here and we only need $60 more, we're able to get through this level while skipping a few top-ends. So with that, I decided to skip the last top-end as it took quite a few left and right presses, but that doesn't mean this level's a piece of cake. We still have this Hot Wing guy, who fires hot wings at us and causes us to go into a transformation. Now granted, it does give us mobility, I'm not complaining about that, it's a good thing that we're still able to move, however we're not able to turn around without pressing left and right. Now this really does allow us to really look at one of my rules here, which is you're allowed to hold the button down. It's only when you release and press it again that it counts as a left or right press. As long as you keep that in mind, this level takes 12 left and right presses throughout the entire level. So as long as you're keeping this in mind and not abusing the power too much, you're really able to get through this pretty easy. Now Fast Food Saloon is probably the most optimized level I've done here today, and that's why it's the last one here. I consistently came back to the level and got rid of a few left and right presses overall. I actually started this level with over 20 left and right presses and managed to get it down to only 2, and it's mostly because of these sausage dogs. Now, the first thing I discovered about these sausage dogs is as long as you're pretty close to the middle, it's going to center you to where the sausage actually is, which means you're able to move it a few frames left and right. The second thing I managed to discover was that if you have enough momentum going, you're able to keep the sausage dog moving, so basically you're able to get this sausage wherever you need to get it in the level. Now unfortunately there is a drawback to this ability, and that's the fact that it doesn't allow us to get somewhere quickly. If we want to get through these red doors before they close, we're going to have to hold left and right. Now there's quite a few places where you have to get fast enough to get through here, but those are for top-ends, and at this point we actually don't need to use these left and right presses to get these top-ends anymore, because we only need a few more dollars to get to the pizza face. So as long as you're only getting the top-ends you need and getting through this level quickly as possible, this only takes you 2 left and right presses. Okay. Yes! Oh! 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 Yes! Oh! Yes! Oh my god. Oh, yes, baby! Holy shit. And that's not it. Because up next we have the crumbling power of pizza, which I'm assuming is going to be the hardest challenge we've had to face to yet. Combined with the shotgun and the hard platforming challenges with many transformations, I'm expecting this one to take at least twice as long. It took like 10 minutes. Now as long as you jump over this trash can, it's pretty simple from there. This wiener section does take 2 left and right presses if you want to get out of here. But other than that, there's only one more left or right press that involves this bucket. You have to press right to redirect the rocket to this round. Other than that, it's smooth sailing all the way to the exit of this tower. I did it. Oh my god. Now this was a journey. 2 months ago, I played this game, and I wanted to see if I could do something in it that I see all these YouTubers I look up to and respect do constantly. And I'm really happy to say that I managed to pull it off. I want to thank NoBlock for allowing people in general to use his music. I use the Unexpectancy remix that is in the boss fight for Pizza Face. But more importantly, I wanted to say thank you for watching all the way to the end. It really means a lot that you're willing to spend a decent amount of your time just watching some guy complete a challenge. A challenge that probably isn't even perfect. That's why I'm issuing a challenge. If you check the description, you're going to see a few rules and an email. If you think you can beat this with fewer left and right presses, send video evidence of you doing so to that email and I'll pay you $20. If you manage to beat the record, I'll give you $20 for each left and right press you manage to beat. I'll constantly update the record in the community tab, so you should stay subscribed so you can look for what you're trying to beat. Now, with 76 left and right presses, that's nearly $1,500 that I'm giving out. Now, obviously, I don't expect all of them to go away, but I want to see how close we can get. Good luck.